How long can you wait for your loved one? 5 months, 8 months, 1 year? Whom a story you will listen today. He has waited 9 years in the same place. No, he has not waited for her boyfriend or girlfriend. He has been waiting in the same place for 9 years for his owner. Hachiko, A Dog's Tale is a movie that is based on true heartbreaking fact. When you watch this story today, you will not know when your eyes will get wet. A story of loyalty and love of a dog. Let's enjoy the movie recaps with Purple Explanation. In the beginning, we see a school classroom where kids are talking about their inspirational heroes. And now a little girl is talking about her hero and saying my hero's name is Columbus. I don't think Columbus is a hero because he discovered America. I think Columbus is a hero because he dared to lower a small ship in this vast ocean. And now the class teacher called a little boy named Ronnie to tell about his own hero. And Ronnie surprises everyone by telling his hero's name is Hachi. All the kids in the class are surprised, but Ronnie says, Hachiko is my grandfather Wilson's dog. And that dog was a mysterious dog and none of us knew where the dog came from, and the story goes flashback. Then we are shown that a man from Japan sent a cute baby dog in a parcel to someone in America. But all the day the cage was fine. The baby dog is trapped. The cage suddenly falls on the side of the road and the cage door opens, causing the baby dog to get out of the cage and move around the train station. Wilson, a professor of music, takes the dog in his arms and looks around for a long time to see if anyone comes to pick up the baby. But when no one comes to pick him up after a long wait, he takes the baby to the station master and then tells the master, keep the baby dog with you. Maybe the baby is lost. Someone will come to get it. You will give it to him. But he apologized to professor. He said, my duty is over now and I can't keep it. I have to go home. His station master knew Wilson already because Mr. Wilson used to come and go to university by the same train every day. Mr. Wilson is now forced to bring the baby dog to his home, but he hides the dog because his wife does not like the dog at all. She does not want the dog to be in their house, but his wife sees the dog. Wilson said, look, I have got the dog at the station. I will leave the baby at the station again tomorrow morning. The professor and the professor's daughter wanted to keep the dog with them, but being forced by his wife, they could not do that. The next day, the professor took the dog to a place whose job was to shelter homeless dogs and cats. The professor told the man, I picked up the baby dog at the station yesterday. Keep it with you. I'll find the owner and take it back. The man got angry and said that this is not a boarding service, that we will take care of such dogs and cats. I only help helpless animals, and now the professor is forced to take the dog to a friend who was also an animal lover. So the professor wants to give the dog to her for adoption. The woman says, look, I have a cat of my own and I don't really need any more animals. Upon hearing this, the professor goes to some other people to adopt the baby dog, but no one agrees. So today the professor is forced to pack the child in a bag and take him to his university. The professor took his dog to a Japanese friend today after finishing his class because there was a small piece of paper with a little note on it with the dog where there was something written in Japanese, and Japanese professor said there is a name of Japanese city written here and nothing else, and the Japanese professor saw a pendant around the dog's neck where Hachi was written in Japanese. Hachi in Japan means 8. He says more. It is not an ordinary puppy, but it is a very special kind of breed in Japan. They are called Akita in Japan. The professor says, then why don't you take it? But his friend tells him that this dog has already found its owner and he will not be with anyone anymore. And now professor is forced to take Hachi back to their house. Seeing Hachi at home, his wife came and asked why he had brought him again. Professor said, look, I have searched its owner in many places. I have asked many people to adopt, but I have not found anything. But I have written many posters and put them in different places. They were talking. At that moment, a sound came from the next room, and they both saw in the room a project of the professor's wife, on which she had worked hard and researched for a long time. Hachi had turned everything upside down, and this time Wilson's wife showed him everything, get angry and get him out of the house now, and I never want to see him in the house again. Forced again, professor left Hachi outside in a storeroom, but now late at night night, a storm stirred outside, and inside the house, Professor is worried because Hachi was alone in the storeroom. So the professor goes to the storeroom again at night and takes Hachi home, and he put Hachi on his lap and fed him and turned on the TV so that his wife could not hear Hachi's voice. But on such a long night, when his wife heard the sound of the TV, she went out of the room and saw that the professor was sleeping and Hachi was with him on the sofa with the TV on. And what else could she do? The professor's wife picks him up and leaves him at their room. The next day in the morning, it is shown that Hachi is being taught to pick up the ball, but Hachi runs away when he sees the ball, but he does not understand how to return with the ball. So the professor is compelled to pick up the ball with his mouth like a dog. The professor's daughter sees something through the window and she calls her mother to see his father is playing like a child. The professor's wife is watching. At that time, a call comes on her phone, and when she receives the call, she finds out that a man wants to adopt Hachi. The professor's wife is very happy, but as she was talking on the phone, she saw outside her husband and her daughter playing with Hachi with great pleasure. Seeing such a scene, she tells the man on the other side of the phone that sorry, the dog has already been adopted. In other words, the professor's wife has also agreed to keep Hachi at home. Many years later, Hachi has grown up over time. His love for Professor grew and now they live together all day playing. As usual, Professor left Hachi home to take university classes, but today Hachi did not leave Professor alone. Hachi digs a hole under their garden and walks out of the station. But when Professor gets on the train by then and he sees Hachi at the station and gets off the train, he told Hachi to go home as soon as he finishes class. He will come back. But today Hachi isn't leaving his master at all. So Professor is forced to come home with Hachi. And when he comes home, he sees the hole in the garden with which Hachi came out. The hole needs to be filled. His wife came there and said, "Why didn't you go to university?" The professor tells her that I missed the train today. And now the professor's wife says, "You go again. I will fill up this." Before leaving this time, Professor said, "Hachi, you will not go out. We will be lost again." Although the professor had been away all day, Hachi was fizzing at the sound of the train's whistle at the station in the afternoon. Hachi realizes that his owner is back on the train, so he runs to the top of their garden wall in front of the station and waits anxiously for Mr. Wilson. The professor comes out of the station and Hachi goes to him and he falls in love so much that he goes crazy with happiness, and the professor also starts to curses Hachi a lot. The professor asked a shopkeeper next to him if Hachi had been here all day, and the shopkeeper said that the dog had come here only for 2 minutes ago. After hearing everything, the professor now returns home with his beloved companion with absolute affection. Today the professor organizes a party at home. One of the professor's favorite boys come home. The boy also came to their house and started playing with Hachi. He threw the ball to Hachi, but from that small age till today, Hachi never took the ball in his mouth. The next day at the university, the professor asked his Japanese professor friend why Hachi did not come back with the ball in his mouth since he was little. The Japanese professor tells him that dogs of Akita breed are like that, but keep in mind that if one day Hachi picks up the ball in his mouth, it must be a special day. Professor says, "Okay, I will be waiting for that special day." The next day on his way to university, Hachi started to look at him with an innocent look, and the professor was afraid that Hachi would not be able to return home alone. Today he dares to take Hachi to the station and tell Hachi to go back home carefully, and Hachi, like an obedient boy, comes back home. After hearing the train's whistle in the afternoon, he ran to fetch Professor and was very happy to see Professor. The professor's daughter is married to the professor's favorite boy. Meanwhile, it has become a habit of Hachi to take the professor to the station in the morning and back in the afternoon. One day the professor's daughter came to visit the house and saw that her father was still playing Hachi as before. She tells her father that she is going to be a mother and Professor is going to be a grandfather, and the professor was very happy to hear this news. The next day he goes to university and as usual stays with his dear friend Hachi. By this time Hachi had become familiar with everyone around the station. Everyone knows Hachi is Professor's dog. One day the professor is ready to go his university. The professor calls him very affectionately. Hachi doesn't want to go with him at all. He starts behaving strangely. The professor did not understand what had happened to Hachi. The professor has to go to university, so he calls once more before leaving, but this time Hachi doesn't go with him. So the professor is forced to go to the station alone. For the first time in his life, Hachi took the ball in his mouth and followed the professor. Meanwhile, in the middle of the street, Professor kept looking back and forth to see if Hachi was coming. Seeing the professor alone at the station, his acquaintances at the station also start wondering where is Hachi. When the professor is about to get inside the station, then Hachi arrives with the ball in his mouth. The professor is very happy to see this because he always wanted Hachi to pick up the ball. So today he throws the ball several times, and like an obedient boy, Hachi repeatedly brings the ball in his mouth. After playing for a while, the professor started to leave again, but this time Hachi started shouting louder. The professor didn't understand anything because Hachi had never done that before. So the professor fondling him a lot more and leaves to catch the train, and Hachi tries to stop the professor by calling again, but the professor doesn't stop and catch his train. But Hachi did not return home today. He looked at the train as if something very important had gone out of his life with this train. As usual, the professor continues to take classes at the university with his students about music. While teaching, he had a heart attack and the professor died there. Hachi anxiously awaits his owner's return to his home, but in the late afternoon, his best friend with whom he always played did not return today. Hachi would not also return home without his owner, but as night fell, the professor's son-in-law came to the station, knowing that Hachi would be at the station and he would take Hachi to their house, and Hachi was depressed all day. The professor's daughter would come and fondling Hachi from time to time, but Hachi's love was for his owner only. The professor's daughter left her father's house and went to her husband's house. Today the professor's funeral is held. Everyone is at the cemetery, but Hachi goes back to his station to find his owner. He finds his from afternoon to evening and from evening till midnight. It starts to snow outside when a station master finishes his duty and about to go back home. He comes to Hachi and says that we don't have to wait any longer. Your owner will never come back. But the innocent soul waits for his owner to return. Several years have passed since the professor's grandson was born, by whom we are now hearing this story. The professor's wife was also moving to another city because she had a new job in that city. So the professor's daughter takes Hachi to her husband's house, far away from the professor's house. They all loved Hachi, but Hachi could not forget his owner after so many years. Taking a chance today, he ran away from the house of the professor's daughter. The innocent Hachi wanders the streets to find his owner's old house, where it grew from small to large. When he visits his old house, he sees another family now living there. So Hachi comes back to the station, where he waits for his owner every day among hundreds of appearances. Hachi came back to find his favorite face, but he no longer finds his owner. Professor's daughter goes to the station to look for Hachi again, and she takes Hachi home. But after being depressed all day, he started feasting again in the afternoon, and the professor's daughter realized that Hachi could no longer be held captive. Today she opens the door and Hachi looks back with two innocent eyes, and the professor's daughter says goodbye to him. Hachi runs again to the station for his owner. He sat down and started to wait for his owner on the wall, with two eyes full of affection for his owner. Hachi's story spread all around. Today two journalists came to the station, and journalists say that we want to know about Hachi. We want to publish Hachi's news in our newspaper. With a lot of interest, the station master told the whole story to the journalist, and the journalists were overwhelmed with emotion after hearing these words. And now they have published the news in a national newspaper. Everyone was surprised to know such a story of devotion of a dog to his owner. Everyone used to send food and money for Hachi's medical expenses. Now Hachi's only job is to sit up from morning till midnight waiting for his owner. Now the shopkeeper next to the station who pays the most attention to Hachi. Hachi is now aged. The impression of age has fallen on the body, but still all the memories spent with his owner are still fresh. So even today, Hachi waits from morning till midnight for his owner. In this way, 9 years pass one by one. He wants to get his owner back even once. 10 years later, the professor's wife returned to the city. She had come to visit her husband's grave. The professor's Japanese friend had also come to see her. After visiting the tomb of the professor's wife came to the station to return to her present town. She was surprised to see Hachi sitting on the wall waiting for her husband still now. Professor's wife came and hugged Hachi's neck and started crying and said that you are still waiting? Your owner will never come back and there is no need to wait. But the helpless innocent Hachi just stared blankly. The professor's wife goes back to her hometown, and at this station there is only a holy spirit and two waiting eyes that still have the dream of getting his owner back. But never and never got his owner back. In one night of snowfall, Hachi died while waiting for his owner. His journey of waiting ends here. This story goes back to the classroom where the professor's grandson tells everyone, "I have never seen my grandfather, but I have seen Hachi. I think I have seen a symbol of loyalty and love in Hachi. So Hachi is my hero who teaches me love, loyalty, teaches to wait for the people you love." And everyone in the class starts clapping when they hear this story, and at the same time today's story ends here. The picture you are looking at now is a real picture of Hachi from 1925 to 1934. He died while waiting for his owner. A bronze statue was placed on his waiting wall at the station. The statue still stands as a symbol of love and loyalty. The story ends here but leaves some imperfections. Please comment on the story. If you like today's story, then stay by our side by liking and subscribing. See you in the next video. Thank you. Take care of yourself. See you in the next video.